Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Armor Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? Try to save the pump. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Armchair.
Do you think you can get me a tape of the show?
What on earth for?
Well, how often do you get to hear your son on the radio?
I'm on the radio every day!
You're listening to WQVZ, 1700 AM Mission Radio.
For me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
No one talks in my meeting. No one thinks you can run this. If you could, then I wouldn't be here. Because I'm sick and tired of our football team getting pushed all over the field. I want precision. This is an institution of learning, ladies and gentlemen. You've tried it your way for years. They've given me less than 1 year to turn this place around. Forget about the way it used to be. This is not a damn democracy. We are in a state of emergency, and my word is law.
10 years ago, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from maximum security stockade. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire...
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man. With a groove on in his head. Yeah, the armchair quarterback. He's kind of fun and he's kind of fat. The all-American man. With a groove on.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome into the Armchair Quarterback Show. Armchair Quarterback Today, as we're calling it nowadays, because of the Braves country today, and we've got MLB today that'll be starting in November. And hope you're having a good day. Good to see you, John. We're behind the membership wall on Braves Country Radio because, well, John kind of brought it up last night, but it had nothing to do with what he said, but it's why we're doing it. We've done really well on the Major League Baseball playoffs, and we don't want to mess up the algorithm because we know not a lot of y'all are not used to coming in here at this time of morning. So if you do want to catch it, not behind the paywall, in other words, not behind the MVP curtain, you can go to Armchair QB Radio and catch it there as we continue to try to build that channel. We're going to do some things. We're going to run some advertisements on some radio stations to help build that channel. We hope to have that channel up and going in its own entity by next football season. Next football season, all the football content will be over there. All the baseball content will be over here on Braves Country Radio. All right, I get that out of the way. Good to see you, John, and Gary the Real McCoy. I'm sure others of y'all will be coming in. I'll try to say hi, but as we get going there, I'm going to try to keep these pretty precise because we're going to going to try to keep them as tight-knit as possible because we're going to try to go through Major League Baseball at the top of the show. We're going to go through college football and the NFL as we move on, but we're going to try to do all of that here on Mondays. And it's one of the reasons why I'm flying solo, because it's hard to get through all that when you're having to stop and do all these other different things. And we're still doing the show on Thursdays. The Thursday show with the guys will still be here, and that'll be behind the MVP curtain as well. But you can catch it, once again, on Armchair QB Today. Or excuse me, Armchair QB Radio is the YouTube channel. All right. First things first, Major League Baseball. Let's get into that as we are looking at we're we're looking at a playoff scenario where some teams better get some wins or it's going to be out the door quickly. Now, the Mariners got off the mat, and they got a big W last night. The big dumper going off again. I think most of y'all know he's one of my favorite players, mainly because of the Florida State connection. I'm not going to sit here and try to lie to you about that, but it sealed the deal for me during the home run derby with his younger brother and his dad and everything like that. That sealed the deal for me. He's probably one of, if not my most favorite non-Atlanta Brave player. So with that being said, Cal Raleigh last night, he scored a run. He got another base hit. He had a much better game one, but nonetheless, he's hitting well here in the postseason. I know it's a short sample size because Seattle had the bye, but he's batting .444. You got to tip your cap to Luis Castillo. He only went 4 2/3, but he went out there and pitched shutout baseball. And that's look, this isn't the regular season. Guys normally don't go very deep because, especially in today's game, you have such deep bullpens if you've gotten to the postseason. The first sign of trouble, they're going to go and get you. And some of these guys that are going out there, we're noticing, are not being allowed to go through the lineup a third time. Like that's it. We're done. And so there you have that. It's 1-1. If you didn't stay up for that one, 1-1. We had a lot of fun in the chat over on Armchair QB Radio when we're not doing the broadcast. Play-by-play, because I've got to rest my pipes at some point. We are doing a play-by-play doubleheader today, but when we're not doing it like tomorrow, we'll be doing one game, and then the other game is going to be over in Armchair QB. And I was surprised because we never saw a lot of people chatting, but we actually got a decent amount of views over there. I guess people are tuning in and checking out the broadcasts, but we are making it where you have to subscribe to comment, so maybe that's preventing people from doing it. I mean, it's not a big deal. You just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. But decent numbers, really good numbers considering the fact we don't have any subscribers over there right now. But once again, we are going to be doing radio contests to build that in the offseason is the short of it, the baseball offseason. Tarek Skubal did Tarek Skubal type things again. He was really dominant. He could not, for whatever reason, he could not solve Polanco. Polanco was the star of the game. 2 solo home runs. He went 3 for 4. The 2 RBIs, the 2 home runs, both against Skubal. And that was really the only thing that Skubal did wrong, was that he could not figure out Polanco. And though Polanco's a good batter, you don't expect him to be the one that's driving him deep. If I was going to guess a name in the hat, and you said, well, it wasn't Cal Raleigh that had 2 home runs for the Mariners yesterday, well, who would it be? And I'm like, well, I'm going to say it wasn't Julio Rodriguez because he hasn't had that definitive year hitting the home runs yet. I would be more inclined to say, was it Suarez? Was it Naylor? No. Polanco goes out there and cracks 2 home runs, and that's the difference in the ball game. Detroit did tie it up in the top of the 8th, and then Kyle Raleigh got on and coming around to score on the RBI by Julio Rodriguez. And then once again, the bullpen is lights out. Munoz looked incredible. Brash, he gave up the 1 earned run. One of those runs was not earned that he gave up. But Bizzardo was really good. I haven't had a chance to watch him much, so I'm impressed with what I've seen. In the Yankee series, they have got to get off the mat. I mean, this is ridiculous. You're the New York Yankees, and you're going back home facing elimination just 3 games into the series. Yesevich was unbelievable, or Ye Savage, which is a really cool nickname that they've given him. 13-7. And the Yankees offense, I thought, did pretty good to get back in it to try to put some pressure on them. But when you get down 12-0 in the 5th inning, it's damn near impossible to come back. Yankees did put up 2 in the 6th, 5 in the 7th, and then they were Quietville 8th and 9th inning. So the offense was there. In game number 1, the offense was not there. Max Fried was the story of the game. He was flat out awful. 3 innings, 7 earned runs, 8 hits allowed, a strikeout and 2 walks. And if y'all were with us last off season, when Max Fried signed the $200+ million contract, I said it then, I'll say it again. I'm not giving Max Fried that big of a contract for that long of an extension. And the number one reason is I don't think he's going to age well. He doesn't have top velocity to begin with. He's upper tier-ish, right on the fringe, but he lives on that curveball. And the other big reason why I've never been a big fan of extending Max Fried, would I give him a 3-year deal at a decent rate? Sure. But Max Fried in the postseason has infamously been a roller coaster ride. And a lot of it has to do with the fact if you give him enough time to rest and he can set himself and he goes in with several days rest going to the first game of the postseason, he's fine. But then right after that, after throwing 100 pitches, and he's not built for this, after going 100 pitches on the outing on Tuesday, on normal rest, on Sunday, they sent him back out there. He didn't have it. And he looked tired. He was leaving the ball over the plate. He wasn't hitting his spots. And usually that has to do with your legs aren't underneath you. And so now they're going to have to try to use him. Now he'll get a full, I would think, they're going to try to keep him for game 5 because it'll be a full normal rest, but also he only threw 3 innings yesterday and only tossed 51 pitches. In theory, they could run him back out there in a game 4 scenario on Wednesday. But that would be with 2 days rest? I don't think it's likely. He may do a bullpen type of situation if they're up against it, but the Yankees are going to try to move on and get to that 5th game with Max Fried on the mound on Friday. And I do think he'll pitch much better if they can get there, but they got to get there, and that's not a given. Now, they're going to be in the Bronx, friendly confines. I think there'll be a lot of electricity tomorrow night. But you look at what they've got ahead of them. The Yankees on Tuesday night, we went over this briefly during the broadcast. Shane Bieber versus Carlos Rodon. Bieber has been pretty good since coming over to the Blue Jays. Now, I still give the Yankees the nod in that game. Game 4, if necessary, is Cam Schlittler, and he was phenomenal. And he's going to be going off of a week rest, essentially. Carlos Rodon's going to step up for the Yankees. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a major disappointment because this was a guy that they spent a ton of money in a couple off seasons ago. He was their Max Fried 2 off seasons ago. And he's never really lived up to the expectations. I don't know if it's got anything to do with he doesn't do well under the bright lights of New York. He's done well in the regular season, second half this year. But all in all, if you were to say, was this a success or a failure? You don't get any in between on the signing of Carlos Rodon so far for the English. You got to say it's a failure. If he steps up and gets a dominant win in game number 3, then you can start pushing that narrative to the back. And Cam Schlittler, I mean, he was damn unhittable. So I think the key to this is the Yankees very well could get swept because you don't know what you're getting out of Carlos Rodon. But if they can get to game 4, I think they're going to absolutely force a game 5. And then you've got Max Fried up against, it could be Yesevich again. We'll see if they would do another thing where they're pulling him out of 78 pitches. I think it's because the game was a blowout and they wanted to save his arm. But he had a no-hitter going. Tonight, we're doing the doubleheader. We'll talk more about this going into the pregame of that. But Blake Snell versus Luzardo, must win for the Phillies. They can't go down 0-2 and go back out to Los Angeles with the next 2 games in L.A. It can't be done. And the second part of the doubleheader, now they're on top of each other. the hope is game 1 finishes in time for us to bring you game 2 for the entirety, but we're just going to have to play that by ear. But it will be 2 different links on the channel. So when game 1 ends, you're going to have to jump into game 2 to get Cubs Brewers. We do that for a number of reasons, but one of the big reasons, a lot of people aren't watching us live, and they're coming in, and I don't want them to be confused. Like, where the hell is the Phillies-Dodgers game? Because we've changed the marquee to Cubs Brewers. We did that in the past, and it doesn't work. We got a ton of people asking, where the hell? I thought you did the game. I did, but it was one long big. So, no, we're not doing that. But tonight's game, Shota Imanaga and Aaron Ashby. And this is a must-win for the Cubs, I think. They could go back to Chicago. They could hold serve and go for a Game 5 in Milwaukee. But as good as the Milwaukee Brewers have been, I don't believe you can expect to win 3 games in a row, even though 2 are in Chicago, if you're the Chicago Cubs. You got to win this game, and it's Imanaga. It's one of your guys. It's one of your big guys. One of the guys that goes out. Now, he only threw 4 innings his first outing in the postseason, but he's got to go out there and give you some length. And the one good thing, if you're one of these National League teams, your bullpen's well rested because you had the day off yesterday, and you get another day off tomorrow. So you can treat this like a Game 7 if your starter isn't doing well, because you can just throw everything at a team. And I think you're going to get an aggressive bullpen game, essentially, out of the Brewers. And the Brewers have been very good at this over the years. They and Tampa Bay, I'd say, are the best 2 bullpen game teams in all of Major League Baseball. And don't expect Ashby to go terribly long tonight. But they're going to play it by ear. And the thing is, when you set your lineup for the Cubs, you have to keep in mind that he's not going to go very long. His longest outing in the month of September was 2 2/3 against St. Louis. And he went 3 2/3 against Chicago. That was back in August, and gave up 1 earned run. And what was it? 3 strikeouts. So it's an interesting start to a bullpen game for Milwaukee, but they're old hat at this. If you're a Milwaukee fan, you shouldn't be worried about a bullpen game with the Brewers. This is who they are. Remember, they lost Woodruff right there at the end, so that was a big blow. And they're trying to figure out a way to get through it. And a bullpen game coming off of a day of rest and looking into a day of rest really is the best time to do a bullpen game. All right, that's it for the baseball talk. Let's go ahead and get into the world of college football. All right, college football, as we set the baseball aside and focus on the world of football. So on these Monday mornings, we're going to give you our top 12 and kind of compare it against their top 12, their meaning the AP. Once they start doing the College Football Playoff Committee, we'll compare it against that. Now, they won't be releasing theirs until Tuesday night, so you kind of get a preview of what we'll be doing. But my top 12 is always going to be based on a neutral site, who would win and how have you done lately. It's not all going to be about, well, this team is doing this and this team is doing that, so that way I have to put it up. In other words, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Florida State should be ranked over Alabama when Florida State has 2 losses and Alabama has 1, even though Florida State beat them. I think that's a good example of what I'm getting at. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. And we're going to put these in the chat as we move along. And they may be a little wonky because I'm having to do the production by myself on Mondays. So if I misspell or whatever, it happens. But we'll put these in as we go along so that way you can see them on the screen. And any kind of feedback, you think I'm nuts, you like one team better over the other, have at it. That's what college football is about. All my years bartending and in bars working, whether it was doing bouncing or eventually ended up in the kitchen. This is what we did. We stood around going, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? So that's the idea of the Armchair QB Show, always has been. We talk all sports, and we'll, cut up. And I love the feedback because I always like to see other people's perception. Now, real quick on the college football scoreboard, I'm just going to run down real quick what happened over the weekend, the top 25. This isn't long enough to be able to go through every single conference, hit by hit, blow by blow. But when you're looking at the number 12 team in the country, I'm going to give you the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And I'm saying this for a number of reasons. Now, Georgia Tech, who are they playing this weekend? The Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech is playing at home against Virginia Tech. Now, they're ranked 13th in the AP polls. I've got them at number 12. They're undefeated. In theory, I should probably put them a little higher, but they're undefeated. They haven't had a big-time schedule yet, so I'm still putting them down at the bottom. But I do believe that being undefeated should mean something, and it's not like they've gone nothing but Cupcake City. Georgia Tech has got the win at Colorado. They beat Clemson, and whether you think Clemson's any good or not, they were number 12 in the country. The perception was they were going to be good, and they've won both of those games. They had a tough win at Wake Forest a couple of weekends ago, and now they come home to play Virginia Tech. And the Virginia Tech game, I think that's a 3:30 game. Do I have that right? Yes, 3:30 on the ACC network. And Georgia Tech gets my number 12 spot on the list. My number 11 spot on the list is a team that not too many teams are talking about, but I've actually watched them play a few games. And BYU has been impressive to me. They're ranked 18th. Once again, they're undefeated. Look, I know they haven't played much of anything. There's a common denominator here. Everybody's winning at Colorado. They beat Colorado at Colorado. They soundly beat a good West Virginia team, a West Virginia team that has been covering the spread. They've been a sneaky cover all year long, and they beat them by 2 touchdowns. And, of course, they've got the wins against East Carolina and Stanford and whatnot. But until they get proven to me that they are not going to be one of the top teams by getting a big loss. Now, they have kind of a decent matchup this weekend. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, ESPN2, BYU versus a 4-1 Arizona squad. They go in there and win that game, I'm going to have to at least put them into my top 10, if not a little higher. My number 11 team, my number 10 team is Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech, they host Kansas. Kansas got the upset. They've lost at Missouri, the upset against Cincinnati, but now it's starting to look like Cincinnati's got a pretty good squad. And then they're they get the big game, the big win at Central Florida. And I think a lot of the perception is that they should have beaten them by more. Whatever. It's a road game. It is technically a conference game. And I'll take Texas Tech all day long into my top 10. They are undefeated. Records have to matter at some point. You can't just go, well, they're not in the SEC. They're not in the Big Ten. I'm not giving participation trophies out, okay? In my top 12, we call it the Cool 12 for a reason. Michael Cool, we named it after one of our longtime listeners, and he passed away a couple years ago, but I won't get back into that whole story. But Cool 12 is why Michael Cool, and he always felt like we shouldn't be doing any kind of a poll, anything like this, until you hit October. And so essentially that's what we're doing at the end of the baseball season. We start these, and that's in remembrance of him. But you can't just continue to give these participation trophies out to the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, they play in this conference, so that means they've got 2 losses. That means they've got to be better than the team that's undefeated. Horse crap. That is nothing but horse crap. It's just fans' way of trying to explain away a loss. Wins have to matter in my world. I don't give a damn if you're in the SEC, but you're sitting there with 3 losses, 4 losses, 5 losses at the end of the year and goes, well, you didn't win the games on the field, which means you might have a talented roster, but you're not good at doing this thing called winning. Why do I want you in the playoffs? You got to win. So that's my reasoning for that. Texas Tech goes in at number 10, BYU 11, and Georgia Tech 12. All right, number 9 on the list. Now, these are, in theory, after I just did that whole big rant, these are, in theory, participation trophies because these are teams with losses, but that's okay because we're getting to the point of the season where not everybody's going to be undefeated. My number 9 team on the Cool 12 has got to be the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia still believe that they are a pretty good football team. I know they had the tough loss against Bama, but I still believe this is a team that will get it together. I believe that Kirby Smart's one of the best coaches in the country. He definitely has one of the best rosters that money can buy in the country. So there's no reason to think that he's not going to be there in the end. So until they go on some incredible losing streak, I've got to keep Georgia relevant. Number 8, well, speaking of the dogs, it's Roll Tide Bama. Bama, they're going to get a big test this weekend, but they're number 8 in the AP. They're number 9, or excuse me, number 8 in AP, and Georgia's number 9, and I've got that mirrored over here in the Cool 12. Give me Bama as my number 7 or number 8 team as we're about to hit the number 7 spot. Bama is at Missouri. Missouri's undefeated. I almost put Missouri in, but they really have not been tested at all. They played Cupcake City. And I do believe that you need to play somebody for me to rank you. So, Missouri wins today. If you're a Missouri Tiger fan, if they win this week, you're going to go skyrocketing into the Cool 12. But you got to win the game. Bama's a 3.5-point favorite, by the way. Early line, 3.5. But I would think some late money is going to come into Bama at the end of the week. But I don't hate that line grabbing Missouri at plus 3.5 at home. It's a noon kickoff, ABC. Now, Bama's looked very good these last couple of weeks. And if there was going to be a letdown spot, I kind of thought it could be against Vandy. But Vandy did ring their bell last year, so that's probably why they had the attention of everybody. But with that being said, Bama, to me, they've got a good roster. I still think DeBoer's a good coach. Everybody got onto him for losing the game at Florida State. Florida State just out-physicaled them, and they had a good game plan. But remember something. When you are getting ready for a game 6-8 months in advance, it's a lot easier to come up with the game plan than it is week to week. And we saw that with Florida State, Miami. I'm still not sold that Nick Castellanos gives Florida State the best chance to win football games week in and week out here in 2025. He is a disaster when he has to throw. Miami put pressure on him. Miami's got a good defense, not taking anything away from Miami. But watching that game, he was missing wide open guys, wide open, underneath, because he was trying to play hero ball and go for the jugular. And throwing into double, triple coverage. There were guys wide open underneath, and he's got to be getting an earful Sunday and today by the coaching staff going, what the hell were you doing, man? I mean, it would dumbfound. I guess it shouldn't dumbfound me, but Herb Street and Davis were doing the call, and they didn't even notice it. They were like, "Oh well, you just doing the bad coverage." I'm like, "Would you look at the two guys, the jackasses that are wide open over the middle? You dump it down there, you're going to get a first down. You don't have to score a touchdown on every damn play." He hit that big home run ball against Alabama early in the season, and now he's smelling himself. Off the Florida State rant, but there was no way in hell I was putting them in the top 12. Not as long as Castellanos is playing that kind of football. But Bama's my number 8. My number 7 is going to be the Oklahoma Sooners. They are undefeated. And OU, this should be a fun one. OU, Texas, at the State Fair this Saturday, 3:30. And Texas got a bad loss. Texas right now is on the outside looking in of any and remember, they were number 1 in the poll for a lot of teams. A lot of teams thought that they should be the number 1 team. And instead, they've taken 2 losses. They got pretty well handled. I know they made the score much closer than what it really was late, but they got handled in the swamp by a Gainesville bunch that everybody wants to fire the coach, and now they're all back on. No, maybe it's so funny to watch the pendulum swing every week with the fan bases. But you're looking at a Texas team that if they don't get off the mat, if they don't beat Oklahoma, their season's essentially over because they went in all or nothing. We've got to get in here to win we got to get into the playoffs. We're going to win it this time, et cetera, et cetera. Arch Manning, blah, blah, blah. Arch Manning is overrated as hell. He's got the name, and because he has the last name, everybody thinks that Arch Manning is the second coming. He's not. He hasn't looked worth the damn. The only game that he looked pretty good in was Sam Houston State. And they lose to Florida, so they're gone. Oklahoma gets my number 7 spot. My number 6 spot is Indiana. Now, look, in the AP poll, it's the opposite way around, right? They've got Indiana number 7 and Oklahoma 6. I've watched both teams play, and I just think on a neutral field, Indiana's the better team. And this isn't the Indiana that played last year. I'm telling you right now, if you haven't watched Indiana play, and it's impossible for people to consume as much sports as I do because I don't even know how the hell I do it. I just inject it into my veins. But the Indiana club, now this is probably the biggest game of the weekend. They're going to Oregon. So if you don't like my Indiana pick, we'll find out on Saturday. But they're going to Oregon. And Indiana, they have played very good football. They annihilated what I think is still a good Illinois team. They snuck out with the win against Iowa, but I think some of that has to do with college football is all about emotion. And they were coming off that big win against Illinois and going into a tough environment in Iowa. Iowa plays a much different brand of football than most teams. They slow you down. They want to get into a rock fight. Nonetheless, Indiana found a way to win that. They're at Oregon, and if they can get the win at Oregon, they've got a couple of tests left, but Indiana's looking good for the playoffs. Oof. By the way, one of their tests is at Penn State later in November. Oof. Penn State, man. Ooh. They're not in the top 10. Hell, they're not in my top 25. You can't lose to UCLA, who didn't have a win before that game. And I don't give a crap that you played the tough game the week before. You lost, so you should be more motivated. I would give them a pass had they beaten Oregon. But right now Penn State could right the ship. I'm not going to say they can't. They could run the table, find their way into the playoffs, and this is just a blip on the radar. But they're literally going to have to run the table. They're at least going to have to run the table till they get to the Big Ten championship game. So if they get another loss, that UCLA blemish is going to look bad on their resume. And I mean bad. they are going to have to run the table, and Penn State is up against it. And Franklin, look, they had a good postseason last year. There was a lot of hype, just like Texas. And now he's searching for, uh-oh. And did you see his press conference? The hell was that? He was blaming everything under the sun that had nothing to do with football on why the hell they lost. I was waiting for him to say, well, the sun was in our eyes. The air conditioning wasn't really working in the hotel. He was just nonsense. And then at the end he goes, but at the end of the day, whenever they go there, you know it's a bunch of crap you're about to hear. At the end of the day, it falls on me. But basically what he did was he said, it's this fault. We had to travel. He literally put travel in there. We had to travel. We didn't have the enthusiasm. Why didn't they have the enthusiasm? You just lost. That's your job. And then at the end he goes, but at the end of the day, it's my fault. And I'll take responsibility. Yeah, duh. All right. The number 5 team in the land, and I might have them underrated, but we've got so many teams that are neck and neck right now. It doesn't really matter where you put them because it's all going to come out in the wash. But the number 5 team in the land, we're going to go with the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Rebels, undefeated. They got the big win against LSU. And next week, they are at Georgia. That's going to be a fun one. This week, they're at home against Washington State. That should be an annihilation. But Ole Miss is a team that not a lot of people are talking about, but they're continuing to put them up into the top 5, into the top 10. They beat Arkansas. They won at Kentucky. They beat LSU. The Georgia game is really going to be the true litmus test. In fact, they've got to face, these are back-to-back-to-back weeks, at Georgia, at Oklahoma, and at home against South Carolina. And then they have to finish the season off. They did get a bit of a bye week with Citadel. They finish off with Florida and Mississippi State. Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Lucidnik, I think you're in the Armchair QB Radio. If you want any fantasy football talk, throw it my way. We're going through college football right now. We're going to get in the NFL in a second, but I don't mind switching back and forth. But Ole Miss, to me, is the number 4 team in the land, and so number 5 team in the land, excuse me. Number 4 team is Texas A&M. Texas A&M has really impressed me. They're a team that I think is going under a lot of people's radar because they've never been a team that people get overly excited about, and I don't know what the reasoning is, but I think one of the main reasons is that in years past they haven't had much of an offense, but they do this year. And this weekend they're at home against Florida. They should take care of Florida. Florida it shouldn't even be a problem. But it is a conference game, and you can't sleep on that. They go to Arkansas, to LSU, and to Missouri back-to-back-to-back games. That's going to be their litmus test. But other than that, when you look at the grand scheme of things, Texas A&M, when they beat Notre Dame, and remember they got the win against Auburn, and a very easy win against Mississippi State, who took the Tennessee Vols all the way to the wall. Texas A&M, outside of collapse, they're heading to the playoffs. Number 3 team in the land, and this is where people are going to go, what? I'm sorry, this is how I see it. And it doesn't really matter to me who's ranked where in the AP poll, because I have to go on eye test. I have to go on, what have you done for me lately? Where are you at? And it's not that they've looked bad, but it's the fact that the other two teams, I believe, not only look better, but have had an opportunity to prove it. The Big Ten team, there's two Big Ten teams and an ACC team in my top three, and I think you can probably guess who they are. But in order, give me Ohio State at number 3, Oregon at number 2, and Miami at number 1. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Ohio State, 5-0. And they manhandled Minnesota. But you look at their schedule, and I get that they got the big win as a sloppy win. It was a rock fight start the season. I'm okay with that. Because typically, first week of the season, you're just trying to get out alive with the win, especially when it's against a big opponent. But the more and more we see of the Texas Longhorns, that's not a very impressive win. And then outside of that, who have they really played? Now, they get a tough test this weekend at Illinois. If they go in and take care of them, they're going to have every opportunity. And does it really matter if you're 1, 2, 3? You're going to get a bye if you're Ohio State and you continue to run the table. That Michigan game's looking bigger and bigger at the end of the season, but they go to Illinois and go to Wisconsin, and then what at one point looked like it was a big matchup. They host Penn State, and then it's Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. Ohio State gets my number 3 spot only because I'm more impressed with the other two teams' resume. Oregon's number 2. They don't get tested again, and they could end up sliding down my top 12, and it'd be no fault of their own. Now, Oregon faces Indiana this weekend, but after that, you're going to it's always what have you done for me lately in college football polls, but they're going to be playing Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. We'll see what happens with USC and at Washington. It's one of the reasons why when we did the preseason show and we told you one of my favorite picks of the entire thing was that Oregon winning over 10.5 games is because of their schedule. Now, Indiana looks better than I expected, but even if they were to lose that one, I still think they probably run the table. So give me the Oregon Ducks number 2, and the Miami Hurricanes are number 1. And Miami, everybody knows I'm no Miami fan, but you got to give credit where credit's due. And the idea that they would be ranked behind anybody at this point in the season is absurd. They beat Notre Dame. I get it was by a field goal. I get it was in Miami on a neutral site. Notre Dame probably wins that game. But in that game itself, you can make the argument that Notre Dame was not the better team on the field, and they were kind of fortunate to only lose by a field goal. They've beaten Florida. They've beaten Florida State, so they got the state title this year. And though the Florida State game, they only won by 6 points, it wasn't that close. I watched the damn thing. It really wasn't that close. Now, they did play with their food a little bit. They almost cost them the game. But for people who didn't see the end of the game, Florida State came roaring back, scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and they were, 2 touchdowns, the 2-point conversions, and then a field goal, and they were going for onside kick with about 30 seconds left to try to recover and get the ball back so that they could chuck a ball to the end zone. So were they close to screwing it up? Yeah, they were, but still, Miami is my number 1 team. And they don't get a lot of challenges down the stretch. They've got Louisville in a couple of weeks, so they have another off. I don't know how they get so many bye weeks. Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh. Miami's going to the playoffs. They don't even have to win the ACC title. Miami, unless they absolutely collapse, are going to the playoffs. So there you have that. That is my cool 12, and let's get into the National Football League. Any kind of fantasy football you want to talk about too, we'll answer any questions, and here we go. All right, you got the big Monday night game tonight, Kansas City and Jacksonville. Man, it doesn't matter what happens anywhere, wherever they play, there's always a Taylor Swift sighting. There was something all over Facebook or something yesterday that Taylor Swift was spotted in St. Augustine, and the people were freaking out. Like, my wife was asking me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if they would stay in St. Augustine. They could. It's a nice town outside of Jacksonville, but they could as well be a little north of Jacksonville too, with all the golf communities. That would be my guess is where they would be at, but you never know. Maybe they went down there to take in the sights. But anyways, Chiefs and Jaguars, that kind of plays into what we're going to be doing here. So we're giving you a top 4 in the AFC, a top 4 in the NFC, and then we'll give you the top 5. We'll do these much faster here as we try to wind down the show. But my number 4 team in the AFC is the winner of tonight's game. Now, unfortunately, we do this before the Monday Night Football game. But if Jacksonville wins, you've got to give them their due. You've got to give Jacksonville the props. Though people may not be a believer in the Jaguars are 3-1. If they win, and I get it, it's at home, but if they win against the Chiefs, the Chiefs have looked pretty good last week, starting to get some guys healthy. Now, they had the weird injury pop up. Xavier Worthy, his ankle is swollen. They don't know if he's going to play. That was weird. Had me scrambling in a couple of fantasy leagues because I had to go and pick up an alternate in Hollywood Brown because I've got the 2 leagues I have him in that I have Worthy in. I should win even without his points, but I'm not going to take anything for granted. So I went ahead and put Hollywood Brown in. If he's out there, you could go with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think they're both a crapshoot if Worthy doesn't play. But I'll just be monitoring that before kickoff while we're giving you the play-by-play. So, number 4 team in the AFC is winner of tonight's game. Number 3 team, I'm going to give you the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I almost did it, but I could make an argument that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be ranked higher. I decided to lay off it because I have more faith in the 2 teams in front of the Steelers right now at the quarterback play, even though it's Aaron Rodgers, and I know that might be blasphemy for some people. Even though it's Aaron Rodgers, I don't believe that he is the end-all that beats all. And the Steelers, though I, once again, took the Pittsburgh Steelers to hit the over on their win total because Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons, and it was 8.5 this year. I've been burned on that, getting just the money back on a tie or a loss. But this year, if they do end up 8-1, I'll actually lose because it was 8.5. It wasn't 8 like I've got it in years past. But listen to the Steelers' schedule for the next couple of weeks. It's the Browns and Bengals. They should, in theory, go 5-1. They host the Packers. They host the Colts. Those will be very good matchups. They're at the Chargers, Bengals, Bears. Finish it off with the tough stretch of Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, meh, but at the Lions. And we'll see what the Ravens have at the end of the season. They would love to be playing the Ravens right now, but they get the Ravens twice in December and in January. But if the Ravens are out of it, and then right now they are, they may not even play Lamar Jackson in the final week of the season. So that's who I've got there. I've got Pittsburgh number 2, and I know it's going to sound kooky dukes and a little bit off the wall, but give me the Indianapolis Colts. I've got to go by what you've been doing and not what we thought you were going to do. And the Indianapolis Colts are, 4-1? They are looking very good offensively. I don't have enough faith in them long-term to put them at the 1 spot. That 1 spot still goes to Buffalo. I know Buffalo lost last night, but I felt like they played with their food. They're smelling themselves a little bit. And look, when a team's undefeated in the National Football League, there's a reason why nobody goes undefeated in the NFL, except the 72 Dolphins. And while you still have to tip your cap to the 72 Dolphins, you realize we don't have any undefeated teams anymore left in the NFL after yesterday's games. Philly lost, Buffalo lost. What did we do? We made it all the way to week 5. It's too difficult to go undefeated, especially in today's game where you don't get the long preseason. I was reading an article about a week or so ago, and someone was referencing that it was their 6th preseason game, and they did this, and this is in the NFL. This is in the late 60s, early 70s. I'm like, my God, I'd heard about that, but I wasn't even sure if I knew it was true. 6 preseason games. And now we don't even really play one. If you watch preseason football today, you're an idiot. You're not getting any kind of information. Now, if you just want to put it on in the background because you like football, I get it. But if you're locked into an NFL preseason game, be a man, watch some baseball. All right. Buffalo Bills, my number 1 team in the AFC. Now, if we were ranking on jerseys, the Bills would be dead last. Those John, I'm sorry, those jerseys, those whiteout jerseys that they had, those were putrid. Putrid. Now we go to, what does Justin say? That Sunday night game is going to be good. I'm assuming you're talking about next. I'm assuming that you're in the here and now. You're not coming back from the past. Detroit, Kansas City. Hey, it'll be interesting. Detroit, Kansas City. Kansas City gets kind of the short straw because they're going to be doing it off a short week. They've got another doubleheader, by the way, next Monday night. Bills at Atlanta and Chicago at Washington. I don't think I knew they were doing this many doubleheaders on Monday night. NFC real quick, and then we'll give you the top 5 and we'll put it on the screen. In the NFC, I've got to go my number 4 team. Now, realize something. When you look at the NFC, you have 4 teams that are 4-1. They're all top of their division. That's how I went with it this week. I'm not going off the idea that one team may be better right now on neutral, blah, blah. 4 teams are 4-1. It made it pretty simple. I'm just ranking them. Now, my number 4 team in the NFC right now is the San Francisco 49ers. They're still not 100% healthy, but you got to tip the cap that they went in and played the Rams at L.A., got the big W. I still think by the end of the season, the Rams are going to be one of the top teams in the NFC. They're still my pick to head to the Super Bowl if they can keep Stafford healthy. But right now, you got to give San Francisco their due. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're number 3. They continue to defy the odds. These injuries that they have had on the offensive line, receiving core, and yet somehow Baker Mayfield right now is my MVP in the NFL, and it's not particularly close. Baker Mayfield continues to carry that squad. And as long as he can stay upright, Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to get my votes. 379 yards yesterday, 2 touchdowns. Rashad White did a good job of filling in 41 yards on the ground and 30 yards through the air. Streamed him in a couple of fantasy leagues and really paid dividends. And my number 2 team and my number 1 team, give me the Detroit Lions at 2. And the Eagles, I get it. They screwed around. They messed around. They found out, right? The Eagles took a tough loss. And I was calling the Yankees game yesterday, the Yankees-Blue Jays game. So as it wound down, I didn't get a chance to watch the Denver game, Denver-Philly. But I did pay attention to it and looked at the highlights later. It just seemed like that Peyton kind of stole one. Going for 2 at the end, taking the 18-17 lead. That was a huge roll of the dice, but it worked. And then they end up getting the extra field goal, giving themselves a 4-point lead later on. It may be much to do about nothing. But I wonder, and it usually happens with Super Bowl champions, I wonder if this inner turmoil with A.J. Brown is going to end up getting him traded out of Philadelphia before the deadline. 5 catches, 43 yards. I'm waiting for him to put another Bible verse out on X. It's what he did last week, and basically he picked one that was a poor woe is me. No one understands. It's what A.J. Brown does. I can tell you as a Titan fan, it's what he does. It's always about him. His team was 4-0. 4-0, defending Super Bowl champions. And all he's talking about is how he's not getting the ball enough. Probably because he wants to roll it into a new contract in the offseason. Shut up and just play the damn game. My God, if you were losing, if the team was 1-3 and you weren't getting the ball and they were losing because they weren't scoring points, I get it. You were 4-0. Shut up. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear these millionaires whine about how hard their life's going to be if they don't get that next extension. My God, you got a Super Bowl ring in Philadelphia, of all places. You were the reason, one of the number one reasons why they went on the run that they did. People are always going to remember that, which means you're always going to be able to parlay that into money in the city of Philadelphia. Quit whining and moaning. Build some businesses around there. People are going to go in. Oh, man, I love A.J. Brown. Can't get enough of it. Instead, you're going to get traded again to who knows where or released in a couple of seasons, and you'll just be a blip on the radar. And Devontae Smith's going to reap all the rewards. It is just so stupid. It's Tom Glavine all over again. He left the Atlanta Braves for a total of $2 million over 4 years, a little over 20 years ago. And I said it then, and I'll say it again. That little bit of money, and I get it, Brown's aiming for a much higher number. But at the time, if Glavine would have just stayed in Atlanta, took a little less money on a contract, A, cost of living's a hell of a lot cheaper in Georgia than it is in New York City. And B, because at the time when I was doing some radio shows back then, we were talking about how the fact that as John Elway came to the end of his career and always stayed in Denver, and everything in Denver had John Elway this, John Elway that on the marquee. You can buy car dealerships, whatever, and put your name on it, and they're going to come in, Tom Glavine Ford, Tom Glavine Chevrolet, Tom Glavine what, and you're going to make much more money than worrying about that little piddly-ass $2 million over 4 years that actually is it's a pay cut because you're living in the city of New York and getting taxed in New York. So it's the same thing all over again. Trade A.J. Brown to the Saints. Exactly. Hell, if I'm the the Eagles, I'd probably do it. John, I'm not going to lie. Give me Chris Olave, and you take A.J. Brown and his headache, they can probably squeeze another defensive lineman out of it, help shore up their run game that's been decimated a little bit because of the defense on the run game because of the free agency that was said. But yeah, you could do it. I got to jam out of here. We're at the top of the hour, but that is your top 5 in the NFL. Philly, Buffalo, Philly, Buffalo, Detroit, Indy, and KC, Jacksonville winner. I put KG, but it's KC. I'm trying to type and look at the camera at the same time. All right, y'all have a great one. See you tonight. Pitch by pitch, play by play, doubleheader on Braves Country Radio. Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers, Cubs. It's go time, baby.
Goodbye, sweetheart. it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's closing time, y'all. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Have a great one. On your way out, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to tip your favorite bartender. We'll see you. I'm Mac Magee, signing off for Braves Country Radio.